Alrighty, folks, we're now 6-0 in our last 6 underdog tier package plays on my premium page. We had Tennessee State plus 3.5, and they took care of Tennessee Martin by double digits on Tuesday. And the good news is I've got another underdog tier package play going off here on Wednesday. And of course, if you join that membership, you're going to get access to that package every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame absolutely free. They're going to be included with your membership. We also improved to 3-0 in our last 3 Gold Club tier package plays, 10-1 in our last 11 in that same package. And as always, I've got another Gold Club tier package play going off on Wednesday as well. Now, real quick, if you sign up for my full access, all-inclusive Gold Club membership, you're going to get access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to my free pick video here today for Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. Happy Wednesday to you. Happy hump day to you. The weekend's right around the corner. We're halfway there. Of course, if you're joining me for the first time here today, my name is Brock Page. I've been dishing out free sports picks on YouTube since 2016. Now, guys, we went 6-2 in all of our games on my premium page yesterday. Yet another winning day for us. And I'll tell you, the only way you could have access to all those winners is to join my full access, all-inclusive Gold Club package. Now, once again, we are 3-0 in our last 3 Gold Club tier package plays in that membership alone. 10-1 in our last 11 in that package. We're also 5-0 in our last 5 NBA tier package plays. Yeah, NBA's back. There's one lonely game here on Wednesday. We're also 4-0 in our last 4 daily best plays. And once again, we are 6-0 in our last 6 underdog tier package picks. Lots of good stuff going on. Listen, if you don't need all that, you don't need all those plays, but maybe you think you could use like one a day. The daily best play, it's hot right now. And it costs you just 6 cents a day for 30 days worth of access. That's it. That's all it's going to cost you to access a premium play. So once again, I've got plays going off in all of those memberships I just mentioned. Folks, I currently have over 2,000 members who are signed up and active on my premium site. And if you're curious and you want to access my full win-loss record, you can access that right now by going to the post section on that page. Just scroll down for the Tuesday recap, and it'll give you my lifetime win-loss record. You don't have to pay to access that. That is available for free. And with that, folks, we got a big slate. We're covering 40 games, 39 in college basketball, 1 in the NBA. Let's go ahead and get started. UMass taking on VCU, 6 o'clock East. Virginia Commonwealth's minus 17, totals 148. Now, the Rams are 20-5 on the year, 12-0 at home. UMass just 11-15 themselves, losing record against the point spread. The Minutemen failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4. Trouble shooting the basketball. They're making only 28% of their three-pointers. They rank 327th in shooting from the field. And they're facing a VCU squad who's one of the tougher defensive teams in all of college basketball. The Rams are allowing only 63 points a game, 6th in the total country in blocks. Now, total-wise, UMass saw unders in 7 out of their last 8. I like VCU minus 17, under 148. Next contest, American taking on Army, 6 o'clock East. Army's minus 1, totals 137. Army's 15-11, 11-3 at home. Now, Americans 17-10 themselves, but they're just 4-9 in their travels. The Eagles are averaging only 69 points a game on offense. They rank 325th in field goals per game. Now, Army on the other side, little problems on offense. They're scoring over 75 points a game. They rank 31st in the nation in field goals themselves. Jalen Rucker averages over 18 points per contest. Ryan Curry's drilling nearly 40% of his long balls. Now, 5 out of American's last 9 did get over the line. I like Army minus 1 over 137. All right, more Patriot League action. Not on our big screen, but it's going to be Lafayette taking on Holy... Oh, no, there it is. Lafayette taking on Holy Cross, 6 o'clock East. Lafayette's -2 away from home. Totals 137.5. Lafayette's 10-17 on the year. 3-11 away from Easton. Meanwhile, Holy Cross, they are 6-5 on their home court. They covered the number recently versus Boston University, Army, and Loyola, Maryland. And even though Holy Cross really, they don't put up a ton of points, I'll tell you this much. The Crusaders do love shooting that deep ball. They're 21st in the nation in offensive three-point percentage. Joe Nugent, he's drilling 41% of his attempts from beyond the arc. Max Green leads the roster in scoring. And Holy Cross, they're facing a Lafayette team who lost 7 out of their last 10 themselves. They've been pretty terrible on offense. The Leopards are averaging only 67 points a game, 66% shooting from the foul line. Just hack them when they get to the paint. They will not make you pay. And oddly enough, Holy Cross saw overs recently versus Colgate, Army, and American. I like Holy Cross +2 over 137.5. All right, next game, Wofford, VMI, 6 o'clock East. Wofford's -6, totals 141. Wofford's 14-13, but they do have a losing record against the point spread. Meanwhile, VMI's 13-14 themselves, but they do cover in 74% of their ball games. This is one of the best covering teams in the country. And more recently, the Keydets covered in 8 out of their last 10. They're averaging just about double-digit 3 balls a game, just shy of double digits from beyond the arc. TJ Johnson, he's making nearly 40% of his deep balls, 13 points a game for him. And Ricky Bradley, he's averaging over 15.5 points a game himself. Now they're taking on a Wofford program who failed to cover in 6 out of their last 8, and they struggled defending the deep ball. The Terriers are 322nd in three-pointers allowed per game. 5 out of Wofford's last 8 did get over the total. VMI went 5-4 to the over in their last 9. I like VMI +6 over 141. Next game, Big Ten action, Nebraska, Penn State, 6:30 p.m. East. Nebraska's -1 in Happy Valley, totals 148.5. Nebraska's 17-9 on the year, 76 points a game they're averaging on offense. And more recently, the Huskers got the W in 5 out of their last 6. They averaged 78 points per contest during that stretch. Bryce Williams is averaging 19.5 points a night, 90% shooting from the stripe. And Connor Esigian's averaging double-digit points a game himself, 40% from beyond the arc. They're facing a Penn State squad who lost their last 7 straight. 78 points a game they allowed during that span, struggled defensively, and struggling against, the Big Ten. Now, total-wise, Nebraska went 60% to the over in their last 10 outings. I like the Cornhuskers -1 over 148.5. All right, next contest, Richmond taking on LaSalle, 6:30 p.m. East. LaSalle's -3.5, totals 139 and a hook. They changed up Richmond's logo on the screen. Now it's a little spider. Anyway, LaSalle, 9-3 straight up at home. Richmond just 1-9 on the road. Now, the Spiders are 9-17 overall for the year. And listen, they've had all kinds of problems getting to the basket. Richmond's in the bottom 15 in field goals made. And once again, they're facing a LaSalle squad who won 9 of 12 in their own building. Corey McKeithen, he's averaging 15 points a game, 88% from the foul line. And Deuce Jones, he's scoring a dozen points per contest himself. The Explorers did go 6-3 to the under in their last 9. I like LaSalle -3.5, under 139 and a hook. All right, next contest, SMU taking on Notre Dame, 7 o'clock East. SMU's -2 on the road, totals 143.5. SMU saw overs recently versus Virginia Tech, Louisville, and the Miami Hurricanes, all ACC opponents. They're also a top 25 point producing team, Boopy Miller, he leads the Mustangs in scoring. Chuck Harris makes 44% of his long balls. Meanwhile, Notre Dame on the other side, they saw overs recently versus Boston College, Virginia, and Duke. Once again, all conference teams. And they've done a nice job. I'm talking about the Fighting Irish. They've done a nice job shooting from long range. Marcus Burton, he's averaging 21 points a game, nearly 40% from three land. And Ty Davis, he's averaging over 15.5 points a night himself. I like the over 143.5. Next contest, a little rivalry game here, although it could end up being a blowout. NC State taking on North Carolina, 7 o'clock East. UNC's minus 11.5, totals 146 and a hook. North Carolina is 15-11, 9-2 at the Smith Center. NC State 10-15 themselves, winless in 7 tries on the road. And more recently, the Wolfpack failed to cover in 7 out of their last 9. Having some troubles on offense this year. NC State's averaging only 69 points a game, 333rd in three-pointers made. They're facing a Tar Heel squad who averages over 80 points per contest themselves, 43rd in field goals. RJ Davis averages over 17 points a game. Ian Jackson second on the roster in scoring. UNC went 4-2 to the over in their last 6. I like North Carolina, minus 11.5. The Tar Heels, over 146 and a hook. Next matchup, Western Carolina taking on Chattanooga, 7 o'clock East. Chattanooga's minus 16.5, totals 152 and a hook. The Mocs are 19-8 on the year, 64% against the point spread. Pretty good covering team. Western Carolina just 8-17 themselves, 1-11 on the road. Now, the Catamounts are one of the worst shooting schools in the country. They're making just 38% of their field goals, 29% from three land. They're facing a Chattanooga squad who's on a 7-game heater themselves, and they covered in all of those victories. Perfect against the number. The Mocs are averaging nearly 80 points per contest and also averaging just about double-digit 3 balls a game. Honor Huff makes 40% of his three-pointers, team leader in scoring. And Bash Whelan, he's averaging 13.5 points a game, 55% from the field. Now, total-wise, oddly enough, the Mocs saw unders recently versus Samford, East Tennessee State, and this very WCU squad. I like Chattanooga, minus 16.5, under 152 and a hook. All right, next contest, IU-Indy taking on Detroit, 7 o'clock East. Detroit is -1, totals 146. Not sure if that's going to be on the big screen. There it is. We got it. Detroit, just 8-19 on the year, but they do cover in 63% of their ball games. I realize this is a super short number, but it is a good covering team, so you certainly want to keep that in mind. Meanwhile, IU-Indy, they're just 8-19 themselves, 3-10 on the road. I'm not sure if some books still list it as IUPUI, but IU-Indy for years was IUPUI, now they're just IU-Indy. So keep that in mind. Some of your books might still list IUPUI. But anyway, more recently, the Jaguars of Indy, they lost 7 out of their last 9. They're 318th in shooting from the field. And they're facing a Detroit squad on the other side who's got a winning record at home. Grant Grondrazik, he's making 41% of his 3 balls. Orlando Lovejoy, he's averaging 16.5 points a game. Detroit did go 6-2 to the under in their last 8. I like Detroit -1, under 146. All right, next matchup, Evansville, Indiana State, 7 o'clock East. Man, a lot of 7 o'clock games. I might have skipped past it, but anyway, moving on. Evansville, Indiana State, 7 o'clock East. Indiana State's -7.5, totals 148 a hook. Now, Indiana State, they're just 13-14 on the season, losers of 6 out of their last 10. They're allowing nearly 80 points a game, 321st in field goals allowed. They're facing an Evansville squad who won 4 out of their last 7 themselves. They covered the point spread 4 times during that span. Tayshawn Comer averages over 15.5 points per contest. Gabe Posado gets 15 points a game himself. And no real surprise here, the Purple Aces. They went 7-2 to the over in their last 9. I like Evansville plus 7.5, over 148 and a hook. Next contest, Providence, Georgetown, 7 o'clock Eastern tip. Georgetown is -3, totals 140. The Hoyas saw unders recently versus Seton Hall, St. John's, and Villanova. They're limiting opposing shooters to just 40% from the field. Meanwhile, Providence on the other side, they've been tough against the deep ball themselves, limiting opposing shooters to just 31% from three land. They're also limiting their competition to just 42% shooting from the field. I like the under 140. All right, next game, Mercer, Citadel, 7 o'clock Eastern tip. Mercer's -7.5. Total is 149. Now, the Bears are 11-16. Citadel's just 5-20. And the Bulldogs have not won a game in over a month. And they're currently the second worst free throw shooting school in the country. Citadel's making only 60% of their foul shots. And they're taking on a Mercer squad who really hasn't been all that great themselves, but they are limiting opposing shooters to just 42% from the field. That's pretty decent. But I'll tell you, the real strength of this Bears program, it's been their ability to score points. I mean, this is a team who's just going to outscore you if they get the W. Mercer is averaging nearly 80 points a game, 31st in offensive rebounds. Ahmad Robinson averages over 16.5 points a game. He's just 5'10", $175. It's a little guy, but you know what? He gets the job done. And he's tough to, he gets good looks. He gets open. Tyler Johnson, he's averaging 16 points a game himself, nearly 40% from three land. And oddly enough, Mercer went 60% to the under in their last 10. I like Mercer -7.5, under 149. Next game, Fordham, Duquesne, 7 o'clock East. The Dukes are -6.5, totals 142. Duquesne does have a winning record at home. Fordham's just 2-7 in their travels. The Rams also dropped 7 out of their last 10, and they've certainly struggled on defense. They're allowing over 77 points a game, 329th in defending the field goal. And even though Duquesne really doesn't particularly light up the scoreboard themselves, the Dukes do like shooting that deep ball. They're making almost double-digit three-pointers a game. Cam Crawford, he's making 42% of his deep balls for the Dukes. Trey Dinkins leads the program in points per contest. And oddly enough, the Dukes saw unders recently versus Loyola Chicago, UMass, and this very Fordham team. That was in their most recent meeting. I like Duquesne -6.5, under 142. Next matchup, Cincinnati, West Virginia, 7 o'clock Eastern tip. West Virginia is -4, totals 149. I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Totals 129. Both schools are 15-10 on the year, but West Virginia, they have not won many games over the past month or so. The Mountaineers are just 3-7 straight up in their last 10. Only 69 points a game on offense they're averaging for the entire year. And I'll tell you, WVU, they've had issues underneath the rack. The Mountaineers are 310th in offensive boards per game. And I'll tell you, that's certainly bad news for them because Cincy rebounds well on defense, and they rarely get into foul trouble. They're 30th in free throws allowed, 26th in defensive points per game. Tough to score against. Now, total-wise, West Virginia went 7-3 to the under in their last 10. I like Cincinnati +4, under 129. All right, next matchup, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, 7 o'clock Eastern tip. The Kentucky Wildcats, they are -5.5, totals 161. The Wildcats are 17-8 overall, 13-2 at the Rupp. Vandy, 17-8 themselves, but just 2-5 in their travels. And more recently, the Commodores dropped 4 out of their last 5. And I'll tell you, Vandy has not covered many numbers over the past month. As a matter of fact, Vandy failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10. And they're in the bottom 15 in the country in guarding the 3 ball. Unfortunately for them, Kentucky definitely shoots it well from long range. They're in the top 25 in offensive three-point percentage, 12th in field goals made. Kobe Brea knocks down 44% of his attempts from downtown. Otiga Owe scores 16 points a night. Now the Wildcats went 60% to the over in their last 10. Vanderbilt saw 6 out of their last 10 get over the total themselves. I like Kentucky minus 5.5 over 161. Next game, Illinois-Chicago taking on Drake, 7:30 p.m. East. Drake's the 10-point favorite at home. Total's 133. Drake's 23-3 on the year, 12-2 at home. And more recently, the Bulldogs won 9 out of their last 10. And they're making nearly 50% of their field goals as a team. Matter of fact, the Bulldogs are a top 10 field goal shooting team in the country. Mitch Mascari, he's drilling 45% of his tries from beyond the arc. Bennett Sturts, he's averaging 18.5 points a game. And they're facing an Illinois-Chicago team who's struggled against the number recently. They failed to cover in their last 5 straight. 74 points a game they're giving up on defense. The Flames also went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. I like Drake minus 10 over 133. Next matchup, Furman-Samford, 7:30 p.m. East. Samford's minus 7.5 at home. Total's 152. Samford's 20-7 on the year, 12-2 straight up at home. The Bulldogs are a top 25 point producing team, 5th in three-pointers made. Trey Fort scores 14 points a game, 40% from long range. And Rylan Jones knocks down 42% of his deep balls, double-digit points per contest for him. They're squaring off against a Furman squad who has not been good against the number recently. The Paladins failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10, having a tough time shooting from the foul line. The Paladins are just 67% from the stripe this year. And total-wise, Samford went 9-1 to the under in their last 10. Give me Samford minus 7.5, under 152. Next game, Northern Iowa. Belmont, 7:30 East. Belmont, 1.5, total 153 and a hook. Belmont's 18-9 on the year, but they do have a losing record against the point spread. UNI's 18-9 themselves, 65% against the number. So even though this is a super short number, listen, the Panthers do a good job covering. And I'll tell you, more recently, the Panthers got the outright W in their last 5 straight. And they held their opponents to just 67 points a game during that time frame. Of course, UNI is most dangerous with the ball in their hands. They're most dangerous on offense. They're currently 8th in the country in shooting from the field. Trey Campbell knocks down 46% of his three-pointers. Titan Anderson leads the program in points. Meanwhile, Belmont on the other side, well, they've had all kinds of issues on defense. This could be a bad recipe for them. They're giving up 79 points a game. They're 349th in three-pointers allowed. And no real surprise, the Bruins went 7-2 to the over in their last 9. I like Northern Iowa plus 1.5, over 153 and a hook. All right, next matchup. Not sure it's going to be on our big screen. It is a small school, but I'll tell you, if you don't know much about them, this is a really interesting team. I'm talking about St. Thomas. The Tommies are taking on South Dakota. That's going to be an 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off. St. Thomas is minus 3.5 away from home. Total is 175.5. By the time you watch this video, it could be higher. Now, the Tommies are 20-7 on the year, winning record against the point spread. And, of course, more recently, the Tommies got the W in 8 out of their last 10. They're second in the entire country in shooting from the field. Drake Dobbs shoots 49% from three-land. Yeah, that's not from the field. That's from beyond the arc, 49%. He's just about 1 of 2 from beyond the arc. He's second on the roster in scoring. And Miles Barnstable, he's averaging over 14.5 points a game himself. And I'll tell you, unfortunately for South Dakota, they're one of the worst defensive schools in the country. They're 6th worst in points allowed, 11th worst in field goals given up. The Coyotes also went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. I like St. Thomas minus 3.5 and the over. Big number, 175 and a hook. All right, next matchup, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, 8 o'clock East. The South Dakota State Bison are minus 7. Totals South Dakota State, they're the Jackrabbits. North Dakota State are the Bison. Let's rewind that. The South Dakota State Jackrabbits are minus 7 at home. Totals 157. The Jackrabbits are 18-9 overall, undefeated in their own building. Meanwhile, North Dakota State, not too bad themselves, 19-9, but they did fail to cover in 6 out of their last 7. Having a tough time covering the point spread recently. The Bison allow over 74 points a game, 301st in field goals given up. And unfortunately for them, South Dakota State on the other side, well, they have no problems getting to the cup. They're 7th in the country in field goals, 6th in offensive boards. So even in the rare instance they miss it, second chances are abundant. Oscar Clough, 17 points a game for the Jackrabbits, 65% from the field. And Joe Saylor, he's averaging 13.5 points a game himself. Now, total-wise, both schools saw their last 3 straight get over the number respectively. I like South Dakota State minus 7 over 157. Next contest, Tulsa, North Texas, 8 o'clock East. North Texas is the hefty 14-point favorite at home. Totals 127. The Mean Greens 18-6 on the year, 12-1 straight up at home. Tulsa's just 11-14 themselves, 2-6 on the road. And more recently, the Golden Hurricane dropped 6 out of their last 9. And they've certainly struggled a bit on defense. They're allowing nearly 75 points a game, 312th in turnovers. And even though North Texas doesn't put up a whole lot of points, they're certainly efficient. They're a good three-point shooting team, top 40 shooting from the foul line. Aiton Wright, he's making a staggering 95% of his free throws, team leader in points. And Brennan Lorient, he's averaging 12.5 points a game himself. Both schools saw overs in their last couple of outings, respectively. I like North Texas minus 14 over 127. 95% from the stripe. That is damn near automatic. All right, next game. South Florida, Texas San Antonio, 8 o'clock East. Texas San Antonio's minus 3, totals 150.5. The Roadrunners are just 10-15 on the year, losing record against the point spread. They also took the loss in their last 4 straight, 2-7 straight up in their last 9. And a big problem for UTSA, it's been their defensive effort. They're allowing over 77 points a game, 325th in defensive boards. They also tend to get into a little bit of foul trouble. They send a lot of people to the stripe. And they're facing a South Florida squad who scores 76 points a game themselves. Jamil Reynolds, he's averaging 13 points per contest, 52% from the field. And Jaden Reed, second on the roster in scoring himself. The Bulls saw overs recently versus UAB, Temple, and Florida Atlantic. I like South Florida plus 3 over 150.5. Next game, South Alabama taking on Arkansas State, 8 o'clock Eastern tip. Arkansas State's minus 8.5, totals 142. The Red Wolves dropped 3 out of their last 4. South Alabama 18-9 on the year, winning record on the road. The Jags have been one of the tougher defensive programs in the nation. South Alabama gives up only 63 points a game, and equally as impressive, actually more impressive, they're limiting opposing schools to just 37% shooting from the field. Now, South Alabama, they also tend to stay out of foul trouble. They are 4th in the nation in free throws allowed per game. And even though Arkansas State, can put up a bunch of points themselves, they need volume. They need possessions. They need shots. They need a lot of shots to score as many points as they have been. They're making just 42% of their attempts from the field. That ranks 310th in the country. So South Alabama, if they can control the ball a little bit, limit possessions, they're going to have a good time covering this number here. Now, Arkansas State went 7-3 to the under in their last 10. I like South Alabama plus 8.5, under 142. Next game, UAB Rice, 8 o'clock East. UAB's -4, totals 155. Now, the Blazers are 16-9 on the year, but they do have a losing record on the road. They also failed to cover recently versus South Florida, ECU, and Memphis. And I'll tell you, they've been kind of lax on the defensive end of the court. UAB gives up 76 points a game, 306th in field goals allowed. And they're facing a Rice team who covered in 6 out of their last 8, just 69 points a game they're giving up. The Owls also saw unders recently versus East Carolina, South Florida, and Florida Atlantic. Give me Rice +4, under 155. Next game, Missouri State, Valpo, 8 o'clock East. Valparaiso's -3 at home, totals 140.5. Now, Valpo's 11-16 on the year, losing record against the point spread. Meanwhile, Missouri State, they've got a winning record against the number themselves, covered in 6 out of their last 9. And even though the Bears aren't particularly offensive juggernauts, they do have a few guys who can shoot it. Zaxton King, he makes 40% of his efforts from beyond the arc. And Des White, he's leading the roster in scoring. They're facing a Valpo squad who lost 9 out of their last 10. Just 2-8 against the point spread during that time frame. And in these teams' recent head-to-head gatherings, well, the Beacons took the loss in 9 out of their last 10 meetings with Missouri State. And as far as this year's concerned, well, Valpo's had big problems on defense. They're allowing nearly 76 points per contest, 321st in defensive field goal percentage. Now, the Beacons went 8-2 to the over in their last 10. I like Missouri State +3, over 140.5. Next game, Nebraska Omaha taking on Kansas City, 8 o'clock East. KC's -1.5, totals 142 and a hook. Now the Roos are 8-4 straight up at home. Omaha just 6-9 on the road. And more recently, the Mavericks failed to cover in 5 out of their last 6, having all kinds of problems on defense. Omaha's giving up nearly 77 points a game, 307th in free throws allowed. Got to stop fouling people. Now, KC on the other side, they're a top 30 free throw shooting team, so this could be a disaster. We might see the Roos get to the stripe an awful lot. And I'll tell you, we might see them shoot that deep ball a lot too. They like to shoot that long ball. KC's averaging nearly double-digit three-pointers a game. Jamar Brown averages 16 points per contest, nearly 40% from three-land. And Jason Petty's second in the program in points per game. Omaha went 8-2 to the over in their last 10. I like KC -1.5, over 142 and a hook. Next game, Big Ten action, Oregon, Iowa, 8:30 p.m. East. Oregon's -1, totals 161.5. Oregon's 18-8 on the year, Iowa 14-11. But more recently, the struggling Hawkeyes dropped 7 out of their last 9. Now, I'll tell you what, during that span, they've been awful on defense. They allowed 84 points per contest on average during that span I just mentioned. And no real surprise here, folks. Iowa's currently in the bottom 5 of the nation in field goals allowed per game. There's no excuse for that, especially a Big Ten school. And they're facing an Oregon squad on the other side who averages over 76 points a game themselves, doing a nice job shooting from the foul line. Jackson Shellstat, he leads the roster in scoring, 40% from three-land. And Keyshawn Bartolome, he's draining 41% of his long balls. The Ducks went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. And by the way, this line flipped. This line was Iowa like -1.5 earlier Tuesday afternoon. So this line flipped. But anyway, give me Oregon -1 over 161.5. Next contest, UL Monroe taking on Texas State, 8:30 p.m. East. Texas State is -12.5, totals 143. Texas State 7-3 at home. Monroe's just 2-10 on the road. The Warhawks also They dropped 8 out of their last 10, and they give up a lot of long balls. They rank 343rd in three-pointers allowed. They're also 334th in defensive boards per game. Meanwhile, the Bobcats on the other side, well, they rebound well on offense. They shoot it well from long distance. Tylon Pope, he's averaging 16 points a game. Josh Ogaro averages just about double-digit points per contest himself. Texas State saw overs recently versus Central Michigan, Arkansas State, and Louisiana. I like Texas State, minus 12.5, laying the big number, over 143. All right, next game. This is a sad program this year. I don't know what happened to them. They were good a few years back, but not so good this year. I'm talking about Oral Roberts taking on Denver, 9 o'clock East. Denver's minus 3 at home, totals 146. Now, the Pioneers do have a winning record against the point spread this year. I know it's not been an up year for them, but they're covering some numbers. Once again, Pioneers winning record against the point spread. Meanwhile, Oral Roberts on the other side, just 38% against the number themselves. Now, the Golden Eagles are a winless 0-12 in their travels, and they're allowing 80 points a game on defense. Now, once again, when it comes to covering the number, Denver's done a nice job. You know, Denver covered in 7 out of their last 8. Covers against the likes of North Dakota State, St. Thomas, and KC. DeAndre Craig, he's drilling 40% of his deep balls, team leader in scoring. And Nick Shabanya, he's scoring 13 points per contest himself. Denver saw overs in 5 out of their last 6. Give me Denver minus 3, over 146. Next contest, ACC action. Miami taking on Florida State, 9 o'clock East. Florida State's minus 8.5, totals 152 and a hook. The Seminoles are 15-10 on the year, winning record against the point spread. Miami just 6-19 overall, 0-7 on the road. The Canes also dropped 9 out of their last 10 meetings with the Seminoles. So if you're into historical trends, it's been all Florida State. Now, I'll tell you what, the problem with Miami this year, they played little to no defense. Miami's currently the worst three-point defending team in the nation. Meanwhile, the Noles on the other side, well, they're the complete opposite. Florida State's 27th in blocks per game on defense, 40% defensive field goal percentage, and no real surprise here, the Seminoles saw unders in their last 3 straight. I like Florida State minus 8.5, under 152 and a hook. Next game, Alabama-MIZZOU, 9 o'clock East. Bama's the 1-point favorite away from home, totals 172. The Tide's 21-4 on the year, 8-1 away from Tuscaloosa. Meanwhile, Missouri's 19-6 themselves, a dominant 16-1 in their own building. The Tigers saw unders recently versus Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Texas. The Tigers are also 5th in the country in steals, and they allow just 69 points a game. Meanwhile, Bama on the other side, they saw unders recently versus Arkansas, Georgia, and LSU. They're limiting opposing shooters to just 29% from beyond the arc. I got a feeling this game might show up on the premium page. Wink, wink. Give me the under 172. Next matchup, Gonzaga taking on Washington State, 9 o'clock East. Gonzaga's minus 13.5 at home, totals 164. Now, Gonzaga's 20-7 on the year, but just 10-17 against the point spread. Meanwhile, Washington State, 16-11 overall, 9-2 at home. The Cougs are scoring 78 points a game, 12th in the country in field goal percentage. Nate Calme scores over 15.5 points per contest. Lawan Watts, 13 points a game for him. Meanwhile, Gonzaga on the other side, they failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10. Failures to cover against the likes of San Francisco, Pacific, and Loyola Marymount. This is a big number for them. Not a great covering team. The Bulldogs did see overs in 5 out of their last 9. Huge number. I like the Cougs. Give me Washington State plus 13.5, over 164. Next contest, some more SEC action. Arkansas-Auburn, 9 o'clock East. Auburn's minus 16, totals 154. The Tigers are 23-2 on the year, 64% against the point spread. Meanwhile, Arkansas is 15-10 themselves, but just 36% against the number. The Razorbacks took the loss in 4 out of their last 7 road games. They're squaring off against an Auburn team who's 10-1 straight up at home, first in the country in blocks. And you can thank Johnny Broome for that. He's got 62 blocks on the season, 250 rebounds. And he does it all. Broome leads the charge with 18 points a game on offense. Meanwhile, Baker Mazara is second on the roster in scoring, 90% shooting from the stripe. Now, when it comes to the total, Arkansas went 7-3 to the under in their last 10. Give me Auburn minus 16, under 154. All right, next contest. St. John's, DePaul, 9 o'clock East. St. John's is minus 13, totals 142. And I tell you, as good as the Johnnies have been, they did fail to cover in 3 out of their last 5. Kind of a big number for them in a conference matchup on the road. They failed to cover recently versus the likes of Creighton, Villanova, and Providence. And I'll tell you, as good as the Johnnies are on offense, they're little threat shooting it from long range. The Red Storm's making just 29% of their attempts from downtown. They're facing a DePaul team who definitely likes to shoot the deep ball themselves. The Blue Demons are averaging nearly double-digit 3 balls a game. Isaiah Rivera knocks down 40% of his attempts from beyond the perimeter. C.J. Gunn, he leads the program in scoring. When it comes to the number, DePaul covered in 3 out of their last 5. Those were in-conference covers against the likes of Marquette, Seton Hall, and UConn. Now, they also saw overs recently versus Xavier, Butler, and Georgetown. I like DePaul plus 13, over 142. Next game, San Jose State taking on Utah State, 9:30 p.m. East. Utah State's minus 16.5, totals 150. The Aggies are 22-4 on the year, 12-2 straight up at home. San Jose State, 12-15 overall themselves, 2-7 on the road. Spartans are on a 3-game skid, and they've had difficulties getting stops on defense. And that's definitely bad news for them because the Aggies have no problem getting to the basket. They're 8th in the nation in field goal percentage, 26 in points per game. Fosliff and Akano are knocking down over 42% of their 3 balls combined. Ian Martinez averages 17 points a game. Utah State went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. I like Utah State laying the big number. Give me the Aggies minus 16.5, over 150. Next game, Portland, St. Mary's, 10 o'clock East. St. Mary's is minus 25, totals 138. No, you did not mishear me. St. Mary's is minus 25. Now, the Gales are 23-4 on the year, 14-1 at home. Portland just 10-17 overall, 2-7 on the road. The Pilots allow 81 points a game, and they're in the bottom 5 in field goals allowed. They're facing a St. Mary's team who definitely rebounds well on offense, and they rarely turn it over. They're actually in the top 25 in fewest offensive turnovers. Augie Marciulionis, I know I butchered that, Augie Marciulionis, he's leading the program in scoring. Paul Marasakis, he's averaging 12 points a game. That's the Lithuanian duo right there, by the way. That's why I'm having difficulties pronouncing those names. But both players from Lithuania. Anyway, as a team, St. Mary's got the W in 9 out of their last 10. 70% against the point spread during that stretch. Now, total-wise, Portland went 8-2 to the over in their last 10 games. Huge number. Give me St. Mary's minus 25, over 138. Next game, New Mexico, Boise, 10 o'clock East. Boise State's minus 3, totals 150.5. Now, the Broncos are 17-8 on the year, but just 50% against the number. Meanwhile, New Mexico, they are 22-4 on the year themselves, 6-2 in their travels. The Lobos are averaging over 83 points a game, 21st in offensive boards. Nelly Jr. Joseph, he's averaging double-digit rebounds per contest, 13 points a game for him. He's been dominant underneath the boards. And Donovan Dent, he's averaging just about 20 points per contest. Now, they're squaring off against a Boise team who failed to cover recently against San Diego State, Colorado State, and this very New Mexico team. As a matter of fact, they were held to just 65 points in that loss to the Lobos back on January 17th. That was a 19-point loss. They were held to only 65 in that game. Now, Boise saw their last 5 straight outings all stay under the total. I like New Mexico +3 under 150.5. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our next and final college basketball breakdown. But don't change that channel because we have one NBA game as well. But anyway, let's get into that final basketball college game. Rutgers, Washington, 10:30 p.m. East. The Huskies are -1.5 at home. Total's 148. Washington's 13-12 on the year, 9-6 straight up at home. Rutgers just 12-14, 2-6 in their travels. More recently, the Scarlet Knights dropped 7 out of their last 9. 76 points a game they're allowing. No real surprise, Rutgers ranks 308th in field goals allowed. And they're facing a Washington squad who covered in 5 out of their last 7. Covers against the likes of Northwestern, UCLA, and Oregon. Tyler Harris makes 49% of his three-pointers. Great Osabor, he's leading the program in scoring. Washington saw 4 out of their last 5 ball games get over the number. I like Washington -1.5 over 148. And with that, we're going to jump into our lone NBA game for the evening. Hornets-Lakers, 10 o'clock East. The Lakers are -12.5. Total's 226. The Lakers are 32-20 overall, 19-6 at home. Charlotte 13-39 overall, 4-19 in their travels. The Hornets are the worst field goal shooting team in the NBA, bottom 3 in scoring. Meanwhile, the Lakers are 6th in shooting from the field. Great job getting to the foul line. The Lakers are currently 3rd in free throws made per game. Austin Reeves, he's making 86% of his foul shots, 2nd on the roster in scoring. And LeBron James, he's averaging 24 points per contest himself, 9 assists per night. Give me the Lakers -12.5. And with that, folks, now it's time for our quick pick recap. I like Virginia Commonwealth -17 under 148. Army -1 over 137. I'm 6-0. My last 6 underdog tier package plays. Holy Cross +2 over 137.5. VMI +6 over 141. Nebraska -1 over 148 and a hook. LaSalle -3.5 under 139.5. I like the over 143 and a hook in that SMU-Notre Dame game. North Carolina -11.5 over 146 and a hook. Chattanooga -16.5 under 152.5. Detroit -1 under 146. Evansville +7.5 over 148 and a hook. I like the under 140 in that Providence Georgetown game. Give me Mercer -7.5 under 149. Duquesne -6.5 under 142. Cincinnati +4 under 129. Kentucky -5.5 over 161. Give me Drake -10 over 133. Samford -7.5 under 152. Northern Iowa +1.5 over 153 and a hook. St. Thomas -3.5 over 175.5. South Dakota State -7 over 157. North Texas -14 over 127. South Florida +3 over 150.5. South Alabama +8.5 under 142. Rice +4 under 155. Missouri State +3 over 140.5. KC -1.5 over 142 and a hook. Oregon -1 over 161.5. Texas State -12.5 over 143. Denver -3 over 146. Florida State minus 8.5, under 152 and a hook. I like the under 172 in that Alabama-Missouri game. Washington State plus 13.5, over 164. Auburn minus 16, under 154. DePaul plus 13, over 142. Utah State minus 16.5, over 150. St. Mary's minus 25, over 138. New Mexico plus 3, under 150.5. And give me Washington minus 1.5, over 148. And in the NBA, I like the Lakers minus 12.5, getting the job done against Charlotte. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium page. And if you do end up getting a membership here today on my premium site, just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame, absolutely free. They're going to be included with your membership. That's why I always tell folks that Gold Club package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. Gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. But most importantly, folks, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, folks, happy Wednesday to you. Happy hump day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium page.